effects. It's not the same thing if they're sending having the artilleries fire for 30 minutes. In fact, all of this is to say that not that Israel is somehow that the United States is a bad state or a moral state. I do think the United States is a normal state. I think that Israel is an abnormal state. Israel is a Jewish state. Israel is a Jewish state, and a Jewish state that is grappling still with this question of power. And in more recent years, the same debates that we encountered in the initial chapters of our peoplehood, whether it is better to absolve ourselves of responsibility, to abdicate responsibility, to blend in, whether we can be better Jews if we do that, and not sully our Jewish soul with this dirty business of maintaining and defending a state, is once again becoming a primary debate. And I opened up with 3 quotes from 3 Jewish writers and figures of recent years. What is Tony Judt, Avram Bord, and Tony Kushner saying?
That we don't have the right to exist.
Yeah, some of that. It's much deeper than not having the right to exist.
And power is making us lose our soul.
Power, he said, Tony Kushner line is the best soul. What if those of you who saw Munich, I feel like that when you never saw music, the Tony Kushner script says, unequivocally, that defending this Jewish state sullies your Jewish soul, which is, according to the Robert character, is to suffer, is to somehow be part of the world and suffer. What is the answer according to the Munich script? Very clear answer.
Move to the United States.
You move to Brooklyn. It's only in Brooklyn that you can be Jewish. You can't be Jewish here. And what is Tony Judt and Avram Borg saying? Saying something very similar. They both have this very idyllic notion, the romanticized notion of Europe, of post-border, post-nationalist, post-military Europe, which is a blending of all these people in an Edenic and Pacific way. Tony Judt says that this is where the world is heading, and this notion of having a separate state for Jews is an anachronism. Abraham Borg takes it a step further. He appropriates Europe as Jewish. In fact, not Israel is the Jewish ideal, but Europe is the Jewish ideal. Europe is the most Jewish thing going. He says that. Well, how is it? Oh, how is it? Because there is an impulse in that can be in Judaism, which is not particularist but universal, and which yearns for a messianic age in which there are no borders and no armies, and it's there. It's part of our legacy as well. And by the way, the Europeans are at a very visceral level. They're also aware of it. There's a great yearning in Europe for the old Jews, the dead ones, the ones they killed. And you have the klezmer clubs growing up across Europe because they love that old Jew, the feckless, highly cosmopolitan, artistic, musical Jew is now the image of the ideal of the new European. What we all want to be in Europe now is the new Jews, the old Jews. I don't know. Read my review of The Pianist in the New Republic several years ago. It's online if you want it. Where I really talk about anybody see The Pianist? There you have the image of the ideal Jew, the apotheosis of the old Jew as called the new European. The pianist who's basically feckless and non-militaristic, non-physical, very delicate, very gentle, causes nobody any problems, and basically this is a European ideal. This is what Avram Borg wants to be.
But that film is also made by a European who used to live in America.
Made by a Jew. Yeah.
Sorry, Jew. I meant Jew.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's a Michael Chabon. Like Michael Chabon as a writer. He's married to another novelist, Ayelet Waldman, who just had an interview where she talked about how that she's so so appalled by the state of Israel, so disgusted by the notion of the state of Israel that they have 4 daughters, and she's striving to raise them in a Jewish environment. It's a non-Orthodox Jewish environment that's completely devoid of any Israeli home. And it's not by accident that his new book, Michael James' new book, is about it imagines a situation where the Jewish state, Israel, was destroyed in 1948. And by the way, there's no mourning for the book, for the destroyed Jewish state in the book. It's just 600,000 Jews, many of them survivors of the Holocaust, were somehow driven out of their homes. And that's not a catastrophe for the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are granted a Jewish state in Alaska, okay, which is also environmentally friendly. And there's no Arabs there, and the regnant language there is Yiddish. So this is almost it's a fantasy of the type that Tony Kushner and Tony Juke and Avraham Borg would very much, I think, sign on to that fantasy. And it's an incredible fantasy. It's a fantasy, whether in Europe or in Yiddish-speaking Alaska, it's a fantasy that is completely shorn of responsibility. There is no sovereign responsibility there. There are no choices to make. There's certainly no hard choices to make about, for example, whether or not to line up your 155mm guns to respond to terror from Gaza, or whether or not to use a 500-pound bomb or a 1,000-pound bomb, or whether or not to respond to Katyusha rocket fire last summer by going to war in Lebanon, and whether taking responsibility for the screw-ups of that war and having the Vinograd Commission, which to my mind is the epitome of Zionism. Vinograd Commission is what Zionism is about taking responsibility for your screw-ups. You can't do that. And so what I conclude, as the former fat coin collector from the Italian neighborhood in New Jersey, I can only conclude that Tony Jude, Avraham Borg, Tony Kushner, all of them are singularly, stunningly, spectacularly wrong. And they are wrong because they have it completely backwards. Having a Jewish state with the requisites and the dirty work of sovereignty does not sully your Jewish soul. It is only in that framework where your Jewish morality can truly be challenged. Because outside of that framework, you have no challenge. Here, this is where the crucible is happening. This is the testing ground. This is the testing ground par excellence. That is the meaning of this country and its relationship to Jewish morality. It's what we're thrashing out here. Are we succeeding? Yeah. Sometimes we do better than other times. But it's the great thrill of accepting the responsibility for making these decisions, for deciding whether J&F land should be reserved for Jewish settlement alone, or should Arabs be able to settle on land of J&F. And then determining whether, if the Arabs can buy that land, whether the Saudis are not going to buy up half the state of Israel tomorrow, because it could happen. These are immediate questions. They aren't things that exist in a classroom first. They aren't happening in a movie, and they aren't happening in novels. They're real. And there's no escaping them here. These are part of our daily reality. It is the great challenge. It is the great nightmare. It is the great blessing of the Jewish state. I love it. Still.